I was the true heir, but they loved the fake one instead. Then I learned my husband was supposed to adore her too. My name is Kira Vance. I am 23 years old. I work as a xeno-archaeology restoration specialist for the Seraphine Institute, which sounds impressive, but mostly means I spend my days in a dusty lab reconstructing shattered relics from the old Earth colonies. I am nobody particularly significant, except for one detail. I am the biological daughter of the Seraphine family. And until 6 months ago, I had no idea. I was raised on a rusted cargo station orbiting a dead moon. My adoptive parents were salvage haulers who made it very clear I was nothing but an extra pair of hands. I wore their cast-off jumpsuits, I ate their scraps, I tended their younger children. When I was 15, I found out why. I had been stolen at birth. A woman who worked in the Seraphine med bay had taken me out of my crib and left her own newborn daughter in my place. That daughter grew up as Lydia Seraphine. She wore silk and attended galas and called my parents mother and father. I was beaten for stealing a protein bar. The Seraphine family took me back when I was 18. Not because they wanted me. Because the scandal was about to break and they needed to control the narrative. Lydia cried and said she was so sorry. My mother held her and said none of this was her fault. My father told me I should be grateful to be acknowledged at all. The only good thing that came from those years was him. Damon Ashford. I met him when I was 16. He was 19 and already running his own tech startup apart from his family's interstellar mining empire. He had come to the cargo station on business and found me cornered by my adoptive father, who was demanding credits I had earned from a repair job. Damon didn't say much. He just stepped between us and told the man to walk away. Then he took me to a food stall and bought me a bowl of hot noodles. It was the kindest thing anyone had ever done for me. I fell in love with him that night. I never stopped. So when the Seraphine family arranged a marriage between the two houses, I didn't object. Damon was the second son, the spare heir, the one his parents never bothered with. His older brother Marcus was the golden child, the one who would inherit everything. And Marcus was engaged to Lydia. Of course he was. Damon and I married on the same day as Marcus and Lydia. It was supposed to be a double celebration. Lydia's dowry included a fleet of personal ships, a private moon, and jewelry that had been in the Seraphine vault for generations. I received a credit transfer and a modest apartment on a mid-level orbital platform. I told myself I didn't care. I had Damon. But Damon was distant. He was polite and courteous and utterly unreachable. We slept in separate quarters. He spent most of his time at his company headquarters. I tried to be a good wife. I learned his schedule, his preferences, his moods. He never seemed to notice. Then came the family dinner at the Seraphine estate. Lydia made a toast to family unity, and I felt my jaw clench so hard my teeth hurt. She was glowing in a gown that cost more than my entire childhood. My mother was beaming at her. My father raised his glass, and I felt that old, familiar surge of resentment rising up my throat like bile. Then I saw them. Words floating in the air just above Lydia's shoulder. Glowing, translucent text that no one else seemed to see. The villainess is really at it again. She just can't stand seeing the heroine happy. No wonder the second male lead locks her up later. I froze. More words appeared floating past my vision like debris. This is the part where the real daughter loses her mind with jealousy. She's going to try to ruin the heroine's marriage. It's so pathetic. Just wait until Damon chains her in the basement. She deserves every bit of it. I stared at the floating comments, my blood running cold. That was when I understood. My world was a novel. Lydia was the beloved heroine. Marcus was the male lead. Damon was the devoted second male lead who secretly loved Lydia and would do anything to protect her. And I was the villainess. The bitter, twisted, real daughter who was destined to be imprisoned and broken. I stood up from the table so suddenly my chair tipped backward. Everyone stared at me. I think I mumbled something about feeling unwell. Then I walked out of that dining room and didn't look back. On the flight back to the orbital platform, I stared at the window and made a decision. I was done. I would not play this role. I would not let the narrative destroy me. I messaged my parents. Transfer 20 million credits to my account and I will never make trouble for Lydia again. I will disappear from her life completely. This is what you owe me. They agreed within the hour. The credit transfer arrived before I even finished my second cup of tea. 20 million plus my own savings was enough. Enough to start over somewhere far away where no one knew the name Seraphine. I contacted a legal AI and had it draft a divorce settlement. I asked for nothing from Damon. Not a single asset. I just wanted out. When Damon came home that evening, I was waiting in the living room. He walked in tall and composed as always. His dark hair was slightly mussed from the wind outside. His eyes, that deep, steady gray, found mine, and something flickered in them. I need to talk to you. I handed him the tablet with the divorce agreement. I want a divorce. He went very still. His gaze dropped to the tablet, then back to my face. You want to leave. This marriage has no foundation. I kept my voice even. We never should have done it. I'm sorry I pushed you into this. You regret marrying me? I do. The lie tasted like ash. But I couldn't tell him the truth. I couldn't say I'm leaving because this world will destroy me and you will be the weapon it uses. Damon studied me for a long moment. Then he said quietly, I'm thirsty. Let me get us both something to drink first. He walked into the kitchen area and I heard him opening cabinets. When he came back, he handed me a tall glass of chilled water. He had one of his own. He sat across from me and began scrolling through the divorce document. I drank. The water was cool and clean. I finished the entire glass. Then the room started to tilt. Damon set down his tablet and watched me. His expression was unreadable. My vision blurred at the edges. My limbs grew heavy. I tried to stand, but my legs gave out. Damon caught me before I hit the floor. When I opened my eyes again, I was somewhere else entirely. At first, I thought I was in a medical bay. The room was beautiful, softly lit with elegant furniture and a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. But when I tried to move my hand, something tugged at my perception. I looked down and saw a band of pulsing blue light wrapped around my wrist. Not a physical chain. Something worse. A neural restraint. The floating comments were back. Wait. Why is the second male lead imprisoning the villainess ahead of schedule? I thought this was supposed to happen later in the story. Nice. He's using a synaptic lock. That's way more intense than the basement thing. He's definitely doing this to avenge the heroine. I felt panic rising in my chest. A synaptic lock meant I couldn't leave the designated space. If I tried to cross the boundary, my nervous system would shut down. I would collapse unconscious. It was the kind of restraint used for high-risk prisoners. Damon had put a synaptic lock on me. The door to my right slid open and he walked in carrying a tray. He was wearing a simple, dark shirt and his hair was slightly damp. He looked tired. "You're awake." My voice came out rough. "What are you doing to me?" He set the tray on the table beside the bed. On it was a bowl of steaming noodles and broth, the same kind he had bought me on that cargo station years ago. "You've been unconscious for a full rotation," he said calmly. "You need to eat." I stared at the noodles. Memories hit me like a pressure wave. Him on that rusted station, his quiet authority, the warmth of the food after years of being hungry. My throat tightened. I turned my head away. "Let me go." "Illegal restraint is a crime." Damon didn't answer. He picked up the chopsticks, lifted a small bundle of noodles, and held it to my lips. "Eat." I refused. We stayed locked in that silence for what felt like forever. The comments were going wild. Is he seriously feeding her? Where is the basement dungeon? This is not what I signed up for. Probably her last meal. Fatten her up before the real torture starts. My stomach betrayed me with a loud growl. Eventually, I gave in and let him feed me. The noodles were exactly as I remembered. Simple, warm, and somehow devastating. When the bowl was empty, Damon left and returned, pushing a floating cart. On it was a full meal grilled fish, crusted with herbs, some kind of delicate soup, a platter of fresh fruit, a tiny cake with glossy icing. He took the empty bowl from my hands and set it aside. The comments exploded. "Okay, what kind of imprisonment is this?" "Steak and cake." "I want to be in prison too." "Is that a synaptic lock or a VIP bracelet?" Because that bed looks more comfortable than my entire apartment. Meanwhile, the villainess gets gourmet meals while the heroine is probably crying somewhere. I looked at my wrist again. The lock pulsed a gentle blue. It wasn't hurting me. It was just there, constant and unignorable. That night, I lay in the enormous bed, trying to make sense of everything. The door slid open without a sound. The mattress dipped. Arms wrapped around me from behind and pulled me against a solid chest. Hot breath touched the side of my neck. "I know you're not asleep." Damon's voice was low and rough against my ear. My whole body went rigid. "What do you want from me?" He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said very quietly, "I want you to stay." I stared into the darkness. "Don't you love Lydia?" Damon let out a sound that was almost a laugh. "Lydia. I've spoken to her maybe 6 times in my entire life. Why would I love her?" The comments went absolutely haywire. "What?" "The second male lead doesn't love the heroine." "Is this allowed?" "Someone call the author." I twisted in his arms to face him. "Then why did you lock me up?" He was silent for a moment. "Because I saw the divorce papers. You were going to leave. You were going to go to Marcus." I blinked. Marcus. Why would I go to Marcus? Damon's jaw tightened. "Everyone says you've always wanted him. That you only married me because you couldn't have the heir." I stared at him in disbelief. Then I started laughing. I couldn't help it. It was all so absurd. "Damon, I've never wanted Marcus. I don't even have his contact code. I married you because..." I stopped. "Because what?" "Because I've been in love with you since I was 16 years old." He went completely still. His arms loosened around me as if he couldn't quite process the words. "You're lying." "I'm not lying." I reached up and touched his face, his stubble rough against my palm. I've loved you since the night you bought me noodles on that cargo station. I've loved you through every cold dinner and every silent night. I didn't want a divorce because I stopped loving you. I wanted a divorce because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of what this world would make you do to me. His eyes searched mine in the dim light. I could see him trying to understand, trying to believe. I leaned forward and kissed him. He froze for a heartbeat, 2 heartbeats. Then his hand came up to cradle the back of my head, and he kissed me back. It was desperate and clumsy and perfect. The comments were losing their collective mind. Did she just confess first? The villainess confessed first. This is not in the script. I've been saying the second male lead has hard eyes for her since chapter 1. Finally, someone sees it. Okay, but can we talk about how soft he looked when she said she loved him? I'm deceased. I pulled back just enough to whisper against his lips. Do you love me? His answer was immediate. Not like love. I love you, Kira. I have loved you for so long. I don't remember what it felt like before. I kissed him again. Harder this time. The neural lock on my wrist flickered and dimmed. He must have deactivated it without me noticing. Or maybe the world's control over him had already started to crack. That night, the comments went black. When I woke up, I was in Damon's bed in his actual quarters. The synaptic lock was gone. In its place was a simple silver bracelet. He had left a note on the pillow. Wear this instead. It doesn't restrain you. It just lets me know you're safe. I put it on. The days that followed felt like a fever dream. Damon, who had been distant and unreachable for months, was suddenly everywhere. He messaged me constantly. He came home early. He kissed me at the door before I could say hello. He held my hand during meals. He looked at me like I was the only thing in the entire galaxy worth seeing. The comments were a mix of confusion and delight. Is this the same guy who was supposed to lock her in a basement? Because he just spent 20 minutes picking out a dress for her. The second male lead has gone completely off script. And I am living for it. Wait until the heroine finds out. This is going to be a disaster. The disaster arrived sooner than I expected. We received an invitation to the annual Ashford Foundation Gala. Damon asked me to go with him. I almost said no, but he looked so hopeful that I couldn't refuse. He personally chose my gown, a deep blue that reminded him of a nebula we had once watched together on a long-haul flight years ago. He did my hair. He was terrible at it, but I didn't care. When we stepped out of the transport, I saw Lydia immediately. She was standing beside Marcus, radiant in silver. She waved at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I ignored her. Damon tucked my arm through his, and we walked inside. The gala was everything you would expect. Crystal chandeliers that floated on anti-gravity fields. Champagne towers that refilled themselves. Music played by a live orchestra from the outer colonies. Damon introduced me to everyone as his wife. Not the Seraphine daughter. Not the foundling. His wife. Halfway through the evening, I excused myself to use the restroom. When I came out, Lydia was waiting for me. Kira. Her voice was soft and wounded. I just want to talk. I know you must hate me. I tried to walk around her. She blocked my path. Please. I never asked for any of this. I was just a baby when my mother did what she did. I didn't know. I felt the familiar anger rising. If you're really sorry, then give me back my life. Return the inheritance. The dowry, the 23 years you stole. Her eyes filled with tears. But mother and father gave those things to me. They wanted me to have them. Then stop pretending you care about me. I pulled off one of my long gloves. The scars on my forearm were pale and ridged. Do you see this? When I was 11, my adoptive mother threw a pot of boiling water at me because I burned the rice. I still can't feel heat properly on this arm. Where were you while that was happening? In a private academy learning to play the harp. Lydia's face went pale. The comments were raging. Honestly, I used to think the villainess was overreacting. But now, those scars are real. The heroine really just said her parents gave her those things. She knows it's stolen, and she still won't give it back. Okay, but the heroine is innocent too. She was a baby. Innocent people don't keep stolen goods once they know the truth. I turned to leave. Lydia grabbed at my arm. And then she was falling. I hadn't pushed her. I hadn't even touched her. But there she was on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Marcus appeared out of nowhere. His face was thunderous. Kira, what did you do? My parents rushed over. My mother looked at me with pure disgust. You promised you wouldn't hurt her. I felt my hand rise. The urge to slap Lydia was overwhelming, like something was physically forcing my arm upward. The plot was trying to make me hit her. I could feel the world pushing at me. Then a hand caught my wrist. Damon. He pulled me gently back, his eyes cold as he faced the group. There is a security drone recording this hallway. We could all watch the footage together if you like. His gaze settled on Lydia. Tell me, Miss Seraphine, did my wife push you? Lydia's mouth opened and closed. No, she whispered. Then why were you on the floor? Why did you let them accuse her? Lydia couldn't answer. Damon turned to my parents. I suggest you learn the difference between the daughter you raised and the daughter you abandoned. One of them has been lying to you for years. Hint, it's not Kira. He took my hand and led me away. Behind us, I could hear the chaos erupting. And in my head, a cold electronic voice rang out. Ding. Main storyline deviation detected. System repair in progress. Progress, 99%. The comments flickered and vanished. I stumbled. Damon caught me. What's wrong? Nothing. I managed. Everything is fine. But I knew it wasn't. For the next few days, I was on edge. I kept waiting for something terrible to happen. Damon noticed my mood and took me off planet for a short trip. We flew to a terraformed moon where the sky was lavender and the water was warm. He held my hand and said, "Whatever happens, you still have me." I nodded and tried to believe it. When we returned, I threw myself into planning for my new project. I had always wanted to open a restoration workshop, a place where I could use my skills to preserve ancient artifacts. Damon found me a beautiful space on the upper levels, and I signed the lease. At the same time, I started preparing for Damon's birthday. He had never had a real celebration growing up. His parents always forgot. His brother always overshadowed him. I was going to make this year different. I secretly took classes in old earth baking. I planned a dinner with all his favorite foods. I ordered a gift, a rare first edition printed book from the pre-expansion era. He collected them. The day before his birthday, his mother called. She said she wanted us to come to the Ashford family estate for a birthday dinner. In all the years I had known the Ashfords, they had never once hosted a dinner for Damon. I turned to him. "What do you want to do?" He hesitated. "Do you want to go?" "Not really." "I'm afraid something will happen if we see Lydia." He kissed my forehead. "Then we won't go." I felt a rush of relief. "I'll make sure you have a birthday you'll never forget." He smiled. "I'm already looking forward to it." The next morning I woke up early and started preparing. I baked a cake from scratch, a 3-tiered confection with delicate sugar flowers. I wrapped his gift. I set the table with candles. Then his phone rang. It was his mother again. She was crying. She said his Aunt Renata had arrived unexpectedly from the outer colonies and was desperate to see him. Aunt Renata was the only family member who had ever shown Damon real affection. He couldn't refuse. "We'll go," he told her. "Just for a short while." I packed the cake carefully in a preservation box, and we flew to the Ashford estate. The moment we walked through the doors, I knew we had been tricked. Aunt Renata was not there. Instead, the dining room was set for a lavish meal. Lydia and Marcus were already seated. So were Damon's parents. His mother beamed at us. "Happy birthday, darling." I looked at the table. Every single dish contained seafood. Damon was deathly allergic to shellfish. He couldn't eat a single thing on that table. I spoke before I could stop myself. "You said this dinner was for Damon. But everything here is Lydia's favorite. And he can't eat any of it." His mother's smile faltered. "Well, I thought Lydia would appreciate." "You thought about Lydia at your son's birthday dinner. You didn't think about your son?" Damon squeezed my hand gently. "It's all right, Kira." "It's not all right." I set the preservation box on the table and opened it. The cake I had spent hours making. A large piece had been gouged out of the side. Lydia was dabbing at her lips with a napkin. I felt my vision go red. Why is there a chunk missing from this cake? The housekeeper glanced nervously at Lydia. His mother waved a dismissive hand. Lydia was hungry. I told her she could have a slice. "I bought this cake for Damon. I made it for him." "How could you?" His mother's eyes hardened. "It's just cake." "He's not a child." I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. "No, he's not a child. But he deserves one day where he is the priority. One day where someone thinks of him first. And clearly, that's never going to happen in this house." I grabbed Damon's hand. "We're leaving." He didn't argue. He let me pull him out of that dining room and out of that house. In the transport, I slumped against him, drained and shaking. He wrapped his arms around me. "I'm sorry," I said. "I ruined your birthday." He kissed the top of my head. "You didn't ruin anything. You stood up for me. No one has ever done that before." Back at our home, I took out the second cake I had hidden in the stasis fridge. A smaller, simpler one with a tiny sculpture of him on top that I had carved from sugar. I lit the candles. "Happy birthday, Damon." "Make a wish." Through the candlelight, his eyes were bright. "I wish for always. With you." He blew out the candles. Later, after we had eaten and laughed and watched an old film, I told him I had one more gift. I disappeared into the bedroom and changed into the outfit I had been hiding in the back of my closet. A ridiculous, fluffy costume based on a creature from a children's holo show he had once mentioned loving as a kid. When I walked out, his eyes went wide. Then he started laughing. Not mockery. Pure, delighted joy. You remembered. Of course I remembered. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me so thoroughly I forgot how to breathe. This is the best birthday I've ever had. His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. And again. Finally, he glanced at the screen. Lydia. I felt ice slide down my spine. Don't answer it. He didn't. He silenced the call. And then his face went blank. Damon. He stood up, his movements mechanical, his eyes empty. He walked toward the door. Damon? I ran after him and grabbed his arm. Where are you going? He didn't seem to see me. He just kept walking. The world was controlling him. The plot was forcing him to go to her. No. No, no, no. I refused to let this happen. I blocked his path. Damon, look at me. It's Kira. Your wife. Fight it. He pushed me aside without a flicker of recognition. Move. I grabbed his face between my hands and pressed my forehead against his. The silver bracelet on my wrist, the one he had given me to replace the Synaptic Lock, started to pulse with warmth. He had linked it to his neural interface. A failsafe, he had said. Just in case. I activated the emergency override. A gentle electric pulse passed between us. Damon gasped. His eyes cleared. He stared at me and then at the door, and then his face crumbled. Kira. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. She called and I said no, and then something took over. I held him as he shook. I know what's happening. I told him. Our world is a novel. Lydia is the heroine. Marcus is the male lead. And you are the second male lead who is supposed to love her and do anything for her. I am the villainess who is supposed to die. He stared at me. You knew this. You've known this whole time. I nodded. That's why I wanted a divorce. I was trying to escape the ending, but I couldn't leave you. I couldn't. He pulled me against him so tightly I could barely breathe. We'll fight it, he said. Together. I don't care what the story wants. I choose you. The days that followed were the hardest of our lives. Damon withdrew from every business deal that involved the Seraphine or Ashford families. He came home early every night. He never let the phone ring more than once before silencing it. But the world wasn't done with us. One night he came home late, reeking of Lydia's perfume. Before I could say a word, he stripped off his jacket and threw it into the incinerator chute. She was at the meeting. He said, his voice tight. I didn't know she would be there. I came home as soon as I could. I believed him. Another night he called me from a corporate dinner, his voice slurring. He was drunk. He asked me to come get him. When I arrived, he was standing outside with his executives. The moment he saw me, he stumbled into my arms and buried his face in my neck. Babe. He mumbled. Take me home. At home, I made him hangover soup. He was sitting on the sofa with his eyes closed. I patted his cheek. Wake up. Drink this. He shot upright and shoved me hard. Don't touch me. I hit the floor. The bowl shattered. Hot soup splashed across my arm. He stared at me in horror. His face went white. Kira. I thought you were... He couldn't finish. He just dropped to his knees beside me and started crying. I thought you were someone else. The narrative was in my head again. I saw her face instead of yours. I wrapped my arms around him even though my arm was burning. It's okay. I'm okay. It's not your fault. But after that night, something in Damon changed. He grew quieter. He stopped sleeping. He flinched whenever his phone buzzed. One night I woke up and he wasn't in bed. I found him in the bathroom, slumped against the tub. His sleeve was pushed up and there was a thin line of blood. An empty bottle of sedatives was on the floor. I called emergency services. He was rushed to the medical bay. When he woke up and saw me, his eyes filled with tears. Are you an angel? I burst into sobs. Why did you do this? I keep feeling like I'm going to hurt you. His voice was raw. Like the story is going to make me into something monstrous. I would rather die than become the man who destroys you. I grabbed his uninjured hand and pressed it to my cheek. If you die, you leave me alone. Did you think about that? We said we would face this together. You promised me. He stared at me for a long time. Then he nodded. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I swear. After he was released, I watched over him constantly. He stepped away from his company entirely. He said he would rather lose everything than lose himself. Then one evening, his phone rang. Lydia again. This time, he didn't hesitate. He put it on speaker so I could hear. She was crying about Marcus going to see some other woman. She wanted Damon to come have a drink with her. Damon looked at me. I looked at him. He ended the call and blocked her number. Then he pulled me into his arms and held me. Nothing happened. The world didn't seize control of him. He didn't turn into a puppet. He was just himself. That night, a familiar electronic voice rang in my head. Ding. Severe storyline deviation detected. A brand new script has been automatically generated. Progress 1%. I grabbed Damon's hand. It's over. We're safe. He didn't fully understand. But he saw my smile and he smiled back. Yeah. We're fine. After that, the world slowly righted itself around us. Or rather, it rewrote itself to accommodate what we had become. Damon and I were no longer bound by the old narrative. The new script was ours. Lydia was not so fortunate. Her marriage to Marcus began to crumble when his first love returned from the outer colonies. She was a diplomat's daughter, cool and elegant, and she didn't waste time on tears and manipulation. Marcus became obsessed with her. He stopped coming home. He stopped defending Lydia to his family. At the same time, the Seraphine family's financial auditors discovered something alarming. Lydia had been siphoning company funds for years to pay off her biological father's gambling debts. Her real family were not the elegant Seraphines. They were debt-ridden scavengers who drained her dry as soon as they discovered she had access to wealth. Her father had racked up fresh debts the moment the old ones were paid. Her older sister needed money for a failing business. Her younger brother had been arrested and needed bail. Her mother demanded Lydia find wealthy spouses for her siblings. When Lydia tried to refuse, they threatened to go public. They would expose her as the daughter of thieves. The Seraphine family would be humiliated. But the Seraphines found out anyway. And they were disgusted. Lydia was quietly removed from the family registry. Her access to Seraphine assets was revoked. Her marriage to Marcus dissolved in a flurry of legal filings. She was left with nothing. The Seraphine family came to me afterward. They appeared at our door, my mother with tears in her eyes, my father looking awkward and stiff. They said they had made a terrible mistake. They wanted to reconcile. They wanted me to come back to the family. Damon stood beside me, his hand in mine. I looked at my parents, the people who had chosen Lydia over me again and again and again. I thought about all the years I had spent desperate for their love. I thought about how it had taken them losing everything to finally see me. I closed the door. Damon and I had our own life now. Our own home. Our own future. His company grew stronger with the Seraphine family finally throwing their support behind him instead of Marcus. Marcus let the Ashford empire stagnate, too distracted by his romantic entanglements to lead. Eventually, even their parents began to eye Damon as the true heir. But Damon wasn't interested in their approval anymore. Neither of us were. We had fought against the narrative of an entire world, and we had won. We didn't need anyone else. The restoration workshop I opened became one of the most respected institutions in the system. Damon would come there after work and sit in the corner watching me piece together fragments of lost civilizations. Sometimes he would bring me Noodles from the same shop he had taken me to when I was 16. We would eat together, sitting on the workshop floor, surrounded by ancient pottery and data slates. One evening, as the artificial sunset painted the orbital platform in gold and lavender, he took my hand. "You know what I was thinking about today?" "What?" "The first time I saw you. You were wearing a patched jumpsuit and you had engine grease on your face. And you still looked at me like I was a person. Not an Ashford. Not a fortune. Just a person. You bought me Noodles. Best investment I ever made." I leaned against his shoulder. "No more separate rooms." He laughed softly. "No more separate anything." We stayed like that until the stars came out. Two people who had never been the first choice of anyone, finally choosing each other every single day.